Guys, welcome to the channel. Sunny here. Today we're taking a look at the new class, the Drakanian, and this video is going to be an outline about what is this class. Like, how do you build her? What items are you looking for? What skill add-ons should you be running? Crystals, all of that. Now let's jump into it and take a look. So the first question is, of course, well, is this a DI class or is this an Evasion class? And to figure that out, we need to take a look at the base character stats of the class. And I have here, courtesy of Sethian, a picture of the sheet base stats of Nova, Surger, and Guardian. And as you can see here, it has the same melee, ranged, and magic evasion base stats as Surger and Guardian, and it also has the same base DR as all three classes. Now, this is normal, relatively low base evasion rates and high base DR rates of the type of classes that we will call DR classes. However, there are some exceptions, such as Striker and Mystic that has a relatively high magic DR as well. So we also have to take a look at the rest of the kit. And in the kit of Drakania, there is no evasion buffs. However, there are some DR buffs, such as the Q buff. So this is definitely one of those classes you should qualify as being a DR class. Now, what does this mean for the build? Well, that means you are probably going to build DR, aka Nuver and Bexen Orgons. The reason for this is a DR class has very, very low base evasion rates and no real buffs, meaning that the amount of evasion you need to get from gear becomes just way too much for you to really feel like a good trade-off in sacrificing offensive stats. Now, this class here also has some really crazy damage modifiers and also very high accuracy. So when we go into looking at this build, it actually becomes kind of interesting. So here I made a couple of setups. My first one here is going to be a PvE setup. This is a very normal PvE setup. I know this is above average gearing, but this is the sort of gear that you should be aiming for and looking for in a PvE setup. You're looking for distortion earrings and of course a Kudum, and as you can see, just full AP. Now, what's interesting about this class is the accuracy. So in this build right here, I actually have no crystals in it at all. So I'm not running any Vipers, not running any Ilkas, etc. But I wanted to show this just to give you guys an idea about the sort of numbers that this class brings to the table. So here we got the PvE setup. And if I go over here in my PvE hit rate calculator, you'll see that we're missing quite a bit. However, once we start plugging in the numbers, this becomes kind of interesting. So as always, you're looking to get a 4% accuracy skill add-on in your build, and you're also looking for the 4 evasion debuff in your skill add-ons. The unskill accuracy on most abilities are between 10 and 15%. So I'm gonna go with 10% here, simply because it's the lowest number and I wanna make sure that I hit on all my abilities. And as you can see, it's looking a lot better now. Remember, this is without any crystals. However, we're not done. So since Drakanian right now is not added on Gammoth because this is early access, the passives are not added in. And Drakania has 5% passive hit rate. So we're gonna add 5% more. Now on top of that, she also has a 9% accuracy self buff. So we're gonna add another 9%, and that's gonna bring us to 24%. But that's not all. She also has a 9% evasion debuff. So that's gonna bring us to a total of 33%. And as you can see, well, she's pretty much 100% hit rate everywhere without a single crystal in her build and no accuracy accessories of any kind. This is crazy. Now let's go in here and let's take a look at a one with a PvE setup. When you're going a bit deeper and you're making a pure PvE setup, I made this one here. Now for enchants in a pure PvE setup, I would actually go for the crit damage and the AP on build. On other classes such as Warrior, I normally would advise people to go for the blue enchants, even though they're pure PvE. But this class has almost 100% crit rate on all abilities, and it has really good AP scaling. You're gonna get a lot of value out of these enchants for pure PvE. Now let's take a look at the crystals I put in for a 100% PvE build. If we go in here, you'll notice that we're doing something new with this class. This class actually has really good sustain in the kit. So we're going for some damage. Also because of the more AP, it scales really well with the high multipliers on abilities. So here we're going Machas in chest, and we're also going Machas in helmet. Now in the boots, we're gonna go with the Adamantites. It's always great getting some knockdown resistance in PvE, and here is when it becomes interesting, because we don't need any accuracy in our PvE setup with this type of gear. So we're actually just leaning into more damage. I think the Jin Kames are probably going to be the best ones for this. At this point, there's no awakening weapon, so keep that in mind. When Awaken comes out, we'll be able to get Garmoth Heart enchants, and we'll be able to get Akad, Glorious Akad crystals in Awakening weapon, but that's not a thing right now. In offhand, we're going Corrupted Crystals, lots of crit damage is great. And in gloves, again, we do not need accuracy for PvE in this class here. So I actually opted for some Dark Valor. It's 10 more AP in total on these two crystals, and I feel like that's gonna bring just a lot of good value. Now, I also made a more balanced setup. Let's say that you are not a pure PvEer, and maybe you want to duel for spot and be ready for that as well. Now this class here also scales really well with survivability, and if you check my other video where I break down all the abilities, you'll see the HP regen and the self PA and stuff like that. It really just makes this class scale insanely well with HP and also DR. So in a more balanced crystal setup, I would be going Hooms in helmet. Of course, we're gonna go Evasion in chest. As soon as we do any sort of PvP, special Evasion in chest are kings. And here it becomes interesting again. I opted for the Hooms in gloves. And you might be like, well, this is a prime place to get accuracy for PvP as well. But I'll show you guys the PvP numbers a bit later here. And this one here is a super great all around. This one prioritizes, this build here, prioritizes survivability a bit more. You could put something else in here if that's what you want to, but this is just a great all around setup. In the offhand, we're going Rebellious Crystals in Nuver, and I would still suggest that you put Corrupted Crystals in your cooldown for the PvE setup, and that's the only item you're going to be switching out between PvE and PvP. Awakening weapon now, we are, again, we don't have it, but in the main hand weapon, we're gonna go with Elcars this time around. You gotta run Elcars, just like you gotta run the special Evasion in chest if you do PvP of any sorts. In boots, we're again gonna be running the Adamantites. They are great, might as well get that resist, it works in PvP as well. I've also gone and made a full PvP setup. This time around, we are going one Hoom in boots and one Adamantite, and that's because with the correct buffs, we only need one Adamantite in boots to get 80% knockdown resistance in PvP, which is the cap. So the pure PvP focus setup here is a bit different. In helmet, we're gonna be running double Hooms, in chest, double Evasion, and here in gloves, we're going damage. This class scales insanely well with damage, so I opted for double Vipers in here. Again, no need to run the Jins. We can just go RBF and get 10 more human damage AP. Now, where we get the last Hoom is in offhand. So we removed one of the Rebellious Crystals and put in a Hoom. So it's going to give us the 4 Hoom bonus with that. In the balanced build and also in the PvP build here, you'll notice that I've opted into, again, HP. HP is just one of the most important defensive stats for this class here. And whenever possible, you should pretty much be prioritizing that. So in sort of the build I would be aiming for, I would be going Terra build and Ruin Ring. And of course, make sure you're using the blue enchants for this class if you're doing any sort of PvP where you really want to be valuing your survivability as well as your damage output. For artifacts, in the PvE setup, this one here, Vicious Shadows, it is in my opinion the absolute best PvE damage artifact combo you can make. I put this one into monster damage artifacts. This one here, crazy good, but it's also very hard to get. I don't have it yet, for example. So if you're looking for an alternative to this one here, because the class scales so well with AP, I would actually opt into any of these. If you know what you're grinding, maybe you're grinding Camisylvian mobs, maybe you're doing Ass Forest or something like that, I would be going straight and deep into 30 Camisylvian damage. That would be my recommendation. Pure AP, unless you can make this one here. Now, when we get into PvP artifacts and crystal setup, again, check out my other video where I break down every single abilities and the unique passive and mechanics of this class. I've come to realize that this class scales insanely well with HP. Several of the abilities will regen percentage-based HP, and it is just an extremely powerful resource on this character. And that is why, for PvP purpose, I've gone with the 4 hearts. And if at all possible, the HP artifacts. If you can't get the HP artifacts, I would be running either all AP artifacts or all DR artifacts. When it comes to PvP accuracy, as I promised you earlier, we're going to take a look at it now. These two builds here, I have my full-on PvP build with no accuracy accessories, no accuracy crystals, nothing. And I'm comparing it to the same build as I was running when I did my accuracy PvP guide using a Musa. And now what's really interesting here is the numbers. So let's go up and take a look. We've already the debuffs on, the stealth buffs on, everything, 15%, 4% skill add-on. And over on the offensive side, we have 33% in total buffs and debuffs with the items and the skills as well. Now, if you look at the numbers here, you might be like, well, 37%, that's relatively, like, is that a good or bad hit rate? And if we go over and look in my guide I made a while back, when I was using Musa as an example, we have here a Musa using E-buff. And this was an example of where, like, this is a really good hit rate. Like, you deal a lot of damage. This is a full offensive build. You have a lot of AP in this. And as you can see, it's 36%, 37% here. The TLDR is that this class without E-buff on has the same accuracy as a Musa using E-buff. And you have to remember, we still have E-buff on this class. E-buff provides a 15% hit rate. Now, this does not stack with the 9% self buff, but we would gain an additional 6% hit rate if we popped E-buff as well. So these numbers are kind of crazy. One thing I did on purpose was I did not add in artifacts on the defensive side. Now, artifacts is something new that wasn't out when I made my accuracy guide, but the reason why I still would suggest not to opt into any accuracy crystals is because while they can use defensive artifacts, you can also use offensive artifacts. So if we were to just show this for an example, if they were to put on defensive artifacts, we're going to use probably the best in slot defensive combo. Like, the numbers would be very different. But the thing to keep in mind about accuracy is that it's only relevant to have accuracy if you're hitting somebody with evasion. If you're hitting anyone with a DR build, you will have 100% hit rate. So whenever you're fighting somebody where you need to get more accuracy, it's a lot easier to put on some new artifacts than it is to extract your crystals and put new in. So if you were to switch in offensive accuracy artifacts, then you would actually be better off than they would. So I know a lot of you guys are eager to just get out there, play the new class, PvE, PvP. So I also made you a cookie cutter all around skill add-on setup. So for the first one here, Brimbolt Strike is the big ability. It's the T3. So I've opted for 30 AP against monsters and 30 crit chance. Now, this class has almost 100% crit chance on all abilities, but there is several ones that don't. So I've actually found out that having some crit rate buff running at all time really helps in the damage output. The next one is the Shift LMB. And this one right here, it's a big AoE, it's super armor. The class has absolutely no slows of any kind in the kit. So I've put in some skill add-ons for that on this ability. It's great use in PvP. Next up is another big nuke. Now this one here, I've added the 10 human damage into, and also 15 DR. Again, this class scales really well with pure AP and also defensive stats. So this one here is one that you're going to be using a lot, and it adds in that 10 AP that you're going to need for PvP scenarios. Next up is Omni Slash. This one is your Evasion debuff. It's a massive AoE. It's just a really good and powerful ability. This one here does not have 100% crit chance on it. So I've put on a 20% crit chance add-on, which will function on its own abilities. And this should make sure that this will always have 100% crit chance whenever you use it. And since it is the Evasion debuff ability, I threw on additional Evasion debuff. This is the RMB. This is also our accuracy buff ability. So once again, I threw on more accuracy on it. If I'm trying to get accuracy into my attacks, I might as well get it on the ability that gives it as well. Now, attack speed is great for this class also, so I threw in attack speed on this one. A lot of the combos I'm going to be opening up with this ability, so getting that attack speed right off the bat is great. The last one here is the SE ability. It's a ranged nuke, and it also reduces the DP of the target by 20. So I threw in more minus DP on that ability. And since I start out a lot of my engages with this one, I also added the 20 monster AP. I really enjoy using the down E into the forward E to engage in PvE and jump into packs. I hope you found it helpful, guys. If you have any questions, feel free to drop a comment or stop by a stream. We stream several times a week at twitch.tv/biceptimusprime. See you in the next one. So I pour up inside my cup and I just sip till I can't feel it. I know it won't solve my problem, but I know it makes a difference. One more sip and I'ma fix it. Out my body when I'm